It's done.
Yeah, right, okay.
Okay, you're live.
Am I? We're live.
You are live.
Hello everyone. This is such a weird live because usually both Leah and I are sat here looking at the camera, but it's just me looking at the camera and Leah's literally just there.
Hi guys, I'm here and I am on tech tonight. I'm letting AK run the show, but I am sort of behind the scenes switching between him, his presentation, myself, but mostly back to him.
Mostly back to me, right?
So please let us know if we can be heard and seen.
Yes. Also, I can't see the comments box, so this is where we're working as a team, as a partnership now. So, as soon as you can hear this, let us know in the comments box that we know we're all good. Also, like Leah said, she says she's going to let me lead this, which is rare.
I'm here on comments, guys. So I've got a few people saying, "Hi AK, how are you doing?"
Yeah.
They're pumped and ready.
I'm ready to go. Ooh.
I've been binging on your property couple videos. Leah, I came over from your channels.
Amazing.
And that you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So we're on.
People can hear me loud and clear. Yeah, we're all good.
You can be heard and you can be seen. They're saying.
And we are gonna rock and roll then. So I guess before we start, just a couple of what do we call them?
Housekeeping.
Yeah, a few little housekeeping bits. Well, look, this is not a normal live that we're doing. This is like the first time we've ever done something like this, and this YouTube live is a bit of a I'm going to call it a tribute, but it's essentially we are doing it to contribute to one of our very first mentors in property. And this is an exclusive YouTube live session where we're going to share some of our property investment knowledge in a very structured and educational format. And this is for the first time we've ever done this. And not only will you gain insights into the strategies and the techniques that can definitely help you uncover property investment opportunities within 2023, but you'll also be contributing to a meaningful cause as well. And from time to time, I'm going to ask Leah to put the GoFundMe link in the comments box. Have you got that, Leah?
I'm going to be getting that, but just a little bit of a question here. Could you go either turn the microphone up a little bit
turn it up.
Oh,
yeah.
Whoa, that was quite a lot.
Yeah.
Can you guys let me know if that has fixed the sound problem? Because a few people said he sounds like he's further away. So I just want to check that it's not this camera here that the sound is coming from, and that it's from that microphone over there.
Cool.
So you guys let me know. He's very quiet on camera.
I'm very quiet on camera as well, but I've just turned it up a little bit as well. So yeah, let me know if that's a little bit better. I'm hoping that the audio going in is from this microphone here and not from that camera over there.
Yeah, because if it is, then you're going to have to speak up.
If it is, I'm going to have to shout. So, you know. Cool. So, anyone saying that they can hear me?
Everyone is just saying that they're all good. Taking a break from work to catch up with my favourite property couple.
Amazing.
Well, just so you know, guys, this is an educational live. So unlike our other lives, which are a little bit more personality led, we are peppering in a little bit more of the educational content. So that's why AK is taking the lead with this one. And as he said, it is a fundraiser for our very first mentor, Dr. Rowe, who has unfortunately got cancer. So any of the donations from this live stream will go towards his treatment. Back to you, AK.
Yes. So as Leah said, it's for a cause that's obviously very close to us. And as such, this is us essentially showing our support for that cause, but also offering what we think is going to be something that's very valuable to people that might be early on in their property investing journey, and hopefully you can get a lot of value from this as well. Yeah, I'm hoping everyone can hear me, by the way. I'm just going to keep talking until you guys tell me otherwise.
Yeah, they said that that's better now.
Cool.
So thanks for fixing
I
it.
turned it up. Sweet.
Yep.
Okay. So, right. Well, I'm going to do this in 3 steps. So I'm going to show you in 3 steps, and a little caveat. I'm going to do this as sort of top line as possible, just to make it really clear. So there's tons of content out there. So I am genuinely not surprised that most people struggle to start a property business. The more people I speak to, the more people tell me about this channel and this person and this person and this book and that. And so what I'm going to try and do is just distill it into 3 actionable steps that you might be able to take to start to build a property business, if that's something that you're interested in doing. Now, so I'm going to start with step 1 here, which is strategy, and it's how to find your property strategy. And the thing about this is that most people don't start with this. They actually start with finding their area, which can sometimes probably feel a little bit more like the right thing to do, but actually I'm going to show you why the strategy is the right thing to do. And I think it's probably one of the most underrated elements, and yeah, one of the common mistakes that people make is not actually starting with this. So there's 2 sort of like pillars to finding your strategy. One, so you can see there on the left hand side, I'm hoping you can see that. Can the guys see that?
Are you on how to find your strategy step 1?
Yeah.
Okay, we are on the right page.
Okay, perfect. So what is your current situation? This is where you need to start asking yourself certain questions. So do you have a capital to invest? So have you got any savings or any funds that you can use to invest in property? What does your current debt look like? So you know, if you are in debt, if you have your credit cards and things like that, are you paying it off? You know, are you able to do that? Have you got any surplus? These types of things. So really it's about understanding your financial position. And that might sound like a very obvious thing to do, of course, like why would I not know my financial position? But actually, you'd be surprised how many people, if I asked you right now, you know, how much do you have in savings? How much do you spend a month? How much do you save a month? You know, all these types of questions. If you can't tell me like that, then it's a little bit worrying. So it's something really to get your head around. And then also another question to ask is how much time you do have to invest in property. You know, because a lot of people have got 9 till 5 jobs, Monday to Friday, or you might have shift work, kids, other sort of priorities and things like that in life as well. So it's about looking at actually how much time can you potentially dedicate to this thing as well, because that is genuinely going to affect or potentially affect the strategy that you may pick. Okay, and then you've got this right hand column, which are your goals. So what are your goals, right? Why are you doing this? So for Leah and I, the main goal was essentially to cover the salary that I was in when I was in a job, to get me out of that 9 till 5 job, to kind of then build on from that. And that was always the kind of number one goal, and there was quite a lot of emotion attached to that. So why is this important to you would be another question to ask yourself when you are looking at those goals. And that sort of emotional connection was quite deep, and so it was very powerful. And what that means is that, again, it allows you to kind of pick the strategy. I'm going to move on to the strategies, but I'm just trying to sort of frame it for you. So these things kind of sound easy, but you've really got to understand why you're trying to do this. You know, it might be that you're quite happy in your job and you want to just have a supplementary income, or maybe you want to build a pension for the future and you still want to work. You know, there are lots of different reasons that people get involved or want to invest themselves or create a property business. So it's about just getting really clear about your situation, because this is personal to you, right? Okay, so we are going to move on to what I am calling the property triangle. It's not my term. Other people call it the property pyramid. I'm going to call it the property triangle. And essentially, this is a list of all the different types of strategies that you might find within the bracket of property investing. So I'm just going to check that you guys can see this. Are we on that slide?
We are on the property triangle.
Fantastic.
I've got you like in the top corner, and I've got the presentation in the middle. There's been a little bit of back and forth, and people were saying they could hear me typing. So I've tried to quiet my typing. I've also pasted the link to Dr. Rowe's Fundraiser, and it is pinned in chats. So everyone who's asked for a link, and rightly so, because obviously on YouTube they do take 30% of donations, so it's just better if any donations go directly to him and not to us via him.
Yeah. And guys, just to give you a little bit more context as well, like Dr. Rowe has also played a massive or an instrumental role in helping me with public speaking skills as well. That have literally like enabled me to do what I'm doing now, talking to camera. And so again, I just want to reiterate that this is a fundraiser to support his recovery with cancer, and yeah, I'm trying to sort of do what he's taught me and try and offer value to you guys, the people that are watching this. So yes, and also what he usually does, or he was teaching me when he was public speaking, is like he had this like little trampoline. So when he finished his like talking, he'd be like, on this trampoline. I don't have a trampoline, so I'm just gonna like jump around like that. But back to the property triangle. So these are all the main sort of strategies in property. And again, because we don't have a lot of time, I'm gonna keep this very simple and not overcomplicate this. Otherwise, we're going to end up going down a rabbit hole, and I could spend many hours explaining all of this in detail. So, okay, why would you choose a certain strategy? That's the question, okay? And there's some key elements that you might want to consider. So, experience and knowledge. Now, if you are brand new to property, a multi-million-pound development is not going to be the best step forward. So at the top there, the large conversions and developments, that's not going to be you. If you, capital-wise, if you have a little bit less capital, okay, you might want to, you're probably going to consider the smaller strategies, the flips, the buy-to-lets, those types of things. Something like a small HMO is going to require more capital. So capital is another consideration factor. Goal. So what is your end goal? Now this is a really important one, obviously, because what we were talking about before. So if your goal, for example, was I want a passive income of £5,000 a month from property, well then you're going to have to start looking at the strategies that are obviously higher up in that pyramid, because you'll notice the two arrows there. So moving from the bottom to the top of the pyramid, as we go up, those strategies require more time, they require more experience, they are a higher risk, and also they require a lot more capital investment as well. So this is why that plays obviously a key role. And yeah, so I'll just give you an example. So going back to that £5,000 a month, if that is your main goal, because you want to get out of your job, because you want to replace that as an example. If you said, okay, well, I'm going to start with buy-to-lets, well, to be honest, that's going to take you a long, long time. So you might want to consider maybe starting slightly higher. Maybe you've got like a lot of savings, or maybe you've got access to a lot of capital, and you want to be making that bigger income per month, then you might want to start higher. Or you might have a little bit in savings or access to a little bit of cash. You actually are not too bothered about, earning lots straight away, and you might want to dip your toe in the water, and you might want to start with like buy-to-lets, for example. So I'm just trying to give you some ideas as to kind of, where you could start, or how it kind of works, and why it's also important as well. With Leah and I, we actually started with the small HMO strategy there. And this was a mixture between me being so desperate to get out of my job that I didn't want to sit there buying, all these buy-to-lets. I wanted to go straight in at small HMOs which would return me a bigger investment, which would get us to our goal quicker, which would get me out of a job quicker. And it just so happened that we were able to raise, larger sums of investment that would enable us to do that type of thing. Okay, so again, this whole strategy topic is very personal to you, and what you have access to and what you want as well. Any questions?
I'm just going to jump in and say a huge thank you to Nikoti, who has donated on Dr. Rose Fundraiser page already.
Amazing.
And Nikoti said, I gave to help, but to honour those close to me who had cancer too. So thank you so much, Nikoti. And also a huge thank you to Javier, who has donated on Super Chat and said, this is a great thing you guys are doing. Great job, guys. So
amazing.
Thank you so much to both of you. Back to AK.
Amazing. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Cool. So I hope that makes a little bit more sense in terms of strategy. So just to kind of recap that, guys, your strategy is going to depend on your experience and your knowledge. It's going to depend on capital or the access to capital that you have, and it's going to depend ultimately on what your goal is. So if you've got any questions, obviously put them in the comments box and I'll do my best to answer those.
I don't know if you've got time to answer this one, but it says, what is the difference between HMO and social housing? That's from Crinkle. So I'll put your property triangle on screen as you explain that.
Cool. So, let me try and be concise with this. So essentially, I'm gonna try and keep it as top line as possible. So HMO is house of multiple occupation. So this is similar to what you've seen us do, where they are single let rooms and you rent them per room, and you can have a 4-bed or a 5-bed or 6-bed and upwards, right? Social housing can be part of this structure, but essentially what you're doing is you're not necessarily, you can let to private tenants, but you can also let to housing associations which are associated with charities and things like that. And often social housing will house vulnerable adults or adults with certain causes, disabilities, that type of tenant. So if you can see what I mean, that they can be the same thing, but social housing as a strategy is directed to a specific type of tenant and organisation. And without getting into a lot of the detail, that can have huge benefits from a landlord's perspective, and obviously it's a fantastic cause, and also there's huge demand for this type of property and this strategy as well.
And am I right in also thinking that social housing is backed by government funding? Because, well, not all social housing, but there's a huge pot of funds that is allocated towards housing people who are vulnerable, who need extra help, who maybe need a live-in carer and things like that. So with the property investor going directly to the housing association, they're able to sign long contracts where you might give your property up for 5 years and the council or the housing association take on that contract, and you're not directly in touch with the tenants or the vulnerable people that are living in your property.
Yeah, so exactly what Leah said, there's exactly. I'm trying not to go so much into the detail because we can go down a bit of a rabbit hole with this and start talking all about one particular strategy, and I don't want to confuse you guys, but Leah's absolutely right in what she's saying as well. Yeah.
Cool. Everyone said thank you.
No
makes sense.
Worries. Okay, so that was step 1. Step 2 is an area, essentially. So finding an area to invest. Can the guys see that slide?
Is it the next slide now?
Yeah, find an area to invest. Step 2.
We're on it.
Yeah, fantastic. So this is where a lot of the time people start with this, but this actually should be the second step. So we're ready. So we've got our goals. Okay, we've got our strategy in place, and we're now ready to find the area that we want to invest in. So there's 3 tips here that I'm going to give you. You can see them along the top there. There is no magical area. So a lot of people are always asking us, what's the best area to invest in? Or, you know, you'll often see these videos on YouTube, like the next best area to invest in. I'm sorry to say, but there isn't really a magical area. There probably was many years ago, you know, when areas were starting to, you know, boom. But I think at the moment there's just a lot of areas do the same sort of thing. And the second tip would be keep it simple. Do not overcomplicate this. And I'm going to show you a way that you can find an area to invest shortly as well, which is the third tip there, which is the 5 area method. And this is exactly the same method that Leah and I used to find an area to invest in property. Okay, so what I've done is I've screenshotted my Excel document, my actual Excel document. It's not the actual data, I've removed it, but I've put some examples in there for you. But if you do this method, it's quite an efficient way of finding an investment area. Now, if you're sort of analytical or more on the analytical side like myself, then you'll probably enjoy this. If not, then I apologise in advance. But it's quite simple. So you might want to take a photo of this, but you pick an area, okay? So you've got the first column is postcode. And then what you do is you look at the current value of a particular property within that area. Remember, we're always referring back to our strategy. So if you've picked buy-to-let, you want to be looking at it from a buy-to-let perspective. If you pick small HMOs, you want to be looking at it from a small HMO perspective. And then what you want to do is you want to have a look at what the price would be on the same type of property if it was renovated and done up and nice and shiny, and I've called it here done up value. Then what you want to have a look at is how much those particular properties rent at, and then you want to have a look at how far that property is away from you, and then you want to have a look at the cash flow and the return on investment. Now I'm going to cover how you calculate those on the next slide, but again, like I said to you guys, I'm trying to keep this as high level as possible, so that we don't get bogged down in all the detail, and you can obviously take this, go and try it and see what you come back with. But the reason I've put the distance in there as well is because what you'll find is when you start analysing this data, when you start looking at these areas, you'll find that maybe, so I'll give you an example here, you can see there in example 2, that actually the cash flow and the return is lower, but it's a lot closer to you in terms of like getting there, travel. And so this will be, you know, part of the decision, your decision that you're going to make. So you might trade off, you know, having to travel less but making slightly less return as an example, right? So it's just really to demonstrate that. But when you look at the numbers, so if you go on the next slide, you might want to take a photo of this, but just to help you guys, to support you guys there, I've written down the formulas of how you work out those numbers. So there's three points there. Yield. So yield is essentially the gross. So you'll hear yield a lot in the industry, and at the beginning, like, you know, we heard it a lot, didn't we? They were all talking about yield. That's gross. Return on investment is net. So I've shown you there how to calculate that. And that'll obviously then be used when you're doing your calculations in the 5 area method when I showed you that. And then cash flow as well. Cash flow is essentially net profit per month. So you can see there it's basically rent minus your monthly operating expenses. So things like management fees, mortgage, bills, these types of things, and you're left there with your cash flow at the end. Okay. So you might want to take a photo of those as well, because then that'll obviously help with the slide before. Any questions? Anything I need to...
Would you like to have a water break? I feel like you need a little water break. I'm going to interject here. Doug has said DUV, done up value, aka after repair value, also known as ARV in the US, which is always really good to know, because it's great to know what other places refer to as DUV, like all the things that we talk about on the regular is called something completely different over there.
So it's called ARV.
Yeah, perhaps another idea for a future video. Like exchanging over here, I think is when you close over there, when they say like it's closing. Okay. We've got to do a video on that at some point. Yeah. But there's been a few more comments. maybe ones for at the very end of the presentation, about some to do with, how long does it really take until we start breaking even, when we've recouped all our investment and are starting to see profit, etc. Lots of questions coming in, so we'll go to these at the end. I have been typing away, but cool. Back to you.
Okay, nice. Cool. So the next thing we want to do is we want to start qualifying the area's demand. So once you've found that area, so what you're going to do is you're going to go through that chart, you're going to start to look at the data, and then you're going to make an informed decision as to which area you might want to invest in. Leah and I did exactly that, right? And originally we picked this area in the UK called Stoke, and we decided to go up there probably every other Saturday. But again, this will be up to you. But what we did after that is we started to qualify the area's demand. So when we talk about demand, we want to look at things like population, we want to look at employers, any community facilities, travel infrastructure. So in the UK, there's this thing called HS2, which is the high-speed rail, and that's going to go all the way from London all the way to the north, and it's going to connect these big cities in much quicker time. So things like that, you want to be looking at the demand for that particular area. You obviously want to analyse the numbers in terms of the house values, the rental levels, the room rates. So if you're doing HMOs, room rates become very important. Social housing, flip potential as well, because if your strategy is to flip a house, which is essentially taking a rundown smelly house, renovating it and then selling it on to somebody that wants to buy their own house, then you might want to look at actually, is there potential within that area to flip? It's no good, buying a house in an area where nobody owns the house because everybody rents, right? So just something to consider there as well. You also might want to take into consideration that the capital appreciation of an area as well. Again, always link it back to your strategy, yeah? Because if your strategy is all about cash flow, I just want to make monthly, I'm not too bothered about, building for a retirement one day, XYZ, then, you might just want to work on the areas that give you the best return now, which are, can often be, say, in the north of the UK, for example, whereas the south of the UK, will probably give you better returns in terms of equity and things like that. So just like things like that to start to consider. And then what you want to do is obviously build your business case. And what I mean by that is putting that 5-grid method really together with all these bits of data, and then you can go visiting. So like Leah and I did, going up to Stoke every weekend down the motorway, to get on the ground and really start talking to letting agents, talking to sales agents, talking to builders, talking to neighbours, talking to all these types of people to then start to understand a lot more about your area there on the ground. Remember those days?
I do remember those days, because I remember that one of my jobs was always to talk to the neighbours, because you always said that I was a friendlier face, and
centre in.
You were like, they'll warm to you nicer, like easier. So I would go knock on the door and be like, is it nice living on this street? And then I'd try and get the neighbourhood info, the inside knowledge out of the neighbours.
Used to send her in, like a tactical little thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so back to your presentation.
Yeah, back to the presentation. And if you've just joined as well, guys, Leah's going to put the link in the comments again.
It's pinned.
It's pinned.
I'll put it here.
So she's pinned it. But the reason we're doing this more educational YouTube live is to support the recovery of one of our very first mentors in property, who's done a lot for us. He's helped me a lot as well with public speaking and being able to literally do what I'm doing with you guys now. So just to remind you, if you've just joined, that's the reason we're doing it, and anything that you are able to donate to that will be massively appreciated. So thank you. Okay, we're moving on now to step 3. So we've looked at our strategy, we've looked at our area, and we are now moving on to our type of property. We're looking onto the property, looking for that property. Okay. So in an ideal world, we would be looking for tired properties that we can purchase at a discounted price that allow us to add value through refurbishing them or reconfiguring them. That's the ideal. It's not always the case that that only that works, but that's the ideal. Okay, for what we learned. Okay, so we of course need to ensure that they meet the qualified demand of our area, and more importantly, align with our strategy. Right? Remember, we started with that thing. That we started with strategy. That's the most sort of that's the first thing we need to really get right. So, as I said earlier, it's no good looking for houses to flip when the area is mainly rentals, as an example, right? Okay. However, saying that, it is good to have multiple exit strategies. So if our first primary strategy doesn't work, we need to definitely have like a backup strategy, an exit strategy, we call it, to make sure that we mitigate risk, because that's always the thing with building a property business. You're always looking to mitigate your risk as much as you can. Okay, so you may have heard of something called the BRRR method. Which is buy, refurbish, rent, refinance.
Oh no, I think it's the other way around.
Buy,
It's buy, refurbish, refinance, rent.
And that is why Leah is here, because she does stuff like that, right?
I
get my r's mixed up. Okay, so so BRRR. Okay, really, common method in property investing, which is why we often look for below market value deals. So BMV, have I put it there in the slides?
It's there on the slides.
Yes.
Opportunity to BMV.
Opportunity to buy BMV, below market value, but not always. I've put that in a bracket because sometimes we can still find deals that work, not below market value, but I'm just telling you that these are the types of properties we ideally would like to be looking for. Okay, so you can see there the little emojis that I've done. I was really pleased with those. So those are the key elements as to what makes a good investment property. Okay, and there are multiple ways to find properties. So on the next slide, you'll see that I've broken them into, again, two sort of columns. You've got on-market properties, off-market properties. So on-market properties are predominantly what the majority see. So these are properties for sale on the open market. Portals such as Rightmove in the UK and Zoopla in the UK obviously offer properties through agents on their portals. So that's on market, pretty straightforward. Off market, what is that? So this is properties that are not on those platforms. They are what we call DTV, direct to vendor. Sorry, I was about to sneeze.
Oh, I should put it to me. You're allowed to sneeze, we're on me.
Thank you, amazing.
Okay,
thank you
we'll go back to you now.
Appreciate it. Cool, so they're the two ways to find properties. Now, we're going to find the best deals off market. That's just the way it is, because for multiple reasons really. You don't have to battle the agents who essentially all they really care about is making the most commission. So they are going to push for the highest price no matter what. When you negotiate off market, you can negotiate not only the price, but you can negotiate the terms as well. And that can be crucial when it comes to finding the right properties. I think with our one, we have probably had a couple direct to vendor, and you can do this in a couple of different ways. I think I've put there on the slides. You can do leaflets and flyers, so you can do your own marketing. We buy houses, that type of thing that Leah and I have done. We did years ago. Letting agents is quite a interesting little tip as well, because letting agents obviously manage landlords' properties, so they are going to get wind pretty early on if a landlord is not looking to have their property let by them anymore, or they're looking to sell, things like that. So building a relationship with a letting agent can actually prove very valuable when looking for properties off market. And then the last point there, TTP, probably the most underrated point in terms of finding properties off market, and that is talking to people. Very underrated. You know, the amount of opportunities that we've had by just simply talking to somebody, talking to a neighbour, talking to somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, which is why I used to send Leah in, because she's very good at that.
Shall I tell a story?
Go for it.
So one of the ways that we got connected to a landlord who was selling off a lot of their portfolio was because I booked us a viewing at a property that was on in an auction, and we went to this auction property viewing, and we definitely were not going to buy it. We just wanted to go and get more experience viewing properties. We got chatting to the agent of the auction house, and we said, oh, we're looking to do I think we even told a little like white lie, we're doing HMOs. We had no HMOs at the time. We're doing HMOs, yeah, that's what we're into. And he's like, oh, how many properties have you got? We were like, yeah, a few. We had none. And then he's like, oh, I know somebody who's sort of in that market, and they're looking to sell. And we were like, oh, great, yeah, put us in touch. And we're looking to buy. And then he made us the direct link between us and this landlord that's retiring, selling off a lot of her portfolio. And we bought many properties from her. So you're just talking to people. The TTP method is definitely the best. Like, I'm not saying lie to people, but talk to people about what it is you're doing or what you want to do. And I think you'd be surprised how far that can get you.
Yeah, that's such a cool story. I love that.
Yeah.
It is, when you think about it, it's great. And it can probably feel really scary to do that, to talk to people, especially at the beginning when you don't really know what you're asking. But like Leah said, if you don't do that, you don't get the opportunities. Okay, so sticking on the topic of property, so step number 3, finding the right property for your strategy. I just wanted to show you guys a bit of an example of one of our properties from a floor plan perspective, and just explain to you why you need to kind of go in this order. So why you need to find your strategy, then find your area, then find your property. Because if you look at these floor plans, on the left hand side you'll see that this is the ground floor of this particular property, and this was a 3-bed terraced house, and our strategy, remember at the very beginning, was smaller HMOs, and we'd specifically selected 4-bed 4-bath HMOs. So we needed to look at properties that would basically allow for this. So for example, if this property was a 2-bed, we knew that it just wouldn't work. We wouldn't be able to create that space. So what we've done here, just to give you that example, and this is the ground floor like I said, is we blocked off the front door, and then that allowed us to create room for bedroom number 1 with an ensuite. The living room became bedroom number 2. The kitchen stayed exactly where it was. We just added in a wall with a fire door there so that we could obviously adhere to the HMO regulations. As we move along, you'll see the upstairs. So again, we turned bedroom 3, so the front room there into bedroom 3. And then what we did with the rest of the property, at the back of the property, upstairs, was we created a separate bathroom, which would then be the off-suite for bedroom number 2 downstairs. And then towards the back of the property, we had bedroom 4 with the ensuite. So what that is demonstrating is that we needed to literally understand what our strategy was, and then our area, and then that then allows us to find the right property for that particular strategy. So look, I hope that's kind of like demonstrated that, but that was the idea, right? So just to recap, guys, in 3 steps how to find an investment property. So you want to start with your strategy. So you want to get really clear. It's one of the most underrated elements of this, trust me. You want to get really, really clear on that strategy. And then you want to look at your area. So remember the 5 area method. So So you can copy what I've done there, and you can just have fun with it and try it yourself. And then you want to start looking at the properties. Okay, most people essentially go, oh, I'm going to be in my area and I'm going to buy that property. And they don't go through it properly, they don't really understand how they're doing it. And remember, when you are looking for those properties, you want to always reference back to your strategy to make sure it aligns with that strategy. You want to qualify the demand, and you want to get out on the ground, and you want to actually start looking and doing stuff. Okay, I know that was like really top line and top level, but again, thank you so much. If you go onto the last slide, Leah, there's just a reminder of that link as well for people to take a look at. And just to make it really clear, guys, all donations received during the live event will go directly to supporting Dr. Rowe's healing journey, and we genuinely really appreciate it. And we appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this as well. We hope that you have taken something away today, you've taken some form of value from today. That was also one of the main aims of today. It's the first time we've ever done anything like this, so be gentle. And yeah, I don't know, is there any to answer any questions?
There's not any, well, there's been a few questions. I'm just going to scroll down the chat. Lots of people are talking about, people here buy on interest only short-term loans and refurbish the property, buying low, but in a growing area to come out ahead after improvement costs and repaying the loan. And I said, it's a very similar story here. And then Lynn said, perhaps it's different. Since I recall, you tried to go with private investors rather than bank financing, which is true. We did start our very first deal with private finance, and then we got bank lending. We also have a mixture of both in our portfolio. So we're paying banks and investors, and then ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've got a nice. AK's voice is echoing. Oh right, okay. Let me see. He should be.
I'm really sorry if I'm echoing. That would be really annoying for everyone that's watching.
Okay, if you stand a little bit that way, and then I'll put us both on screen. Stand a little bit more that way.
This way.
Yeah, and now we're both on the screen. So, just finally, Phoebe was said, cracking job, guys. Really clear and informative. Well executed. Barry said, for your first HMO, how much did you pay for your refurb? There was a video on that. So 42,000.
42,500.
40. I think in the video we posted, which is on our channel, called How Much Our First Investment Property Makes Per Month. The exact figures are on there, but I think AK's right. I think it is about 42,500 on the first refurb.
And the reason it was lower was because, well, one, generally the prices of materials and labour were a lot lower then, and it was only a couple of years ago. But two, we actually didn't need to replace any of the windows in that particular property, which made a big difference as well. Probably saved us around £5,000 as well. So both together meant that it was relatively, well, no, do you know what? It was a very cheap refurb for a 4-bath HMO.
Mm-hmm. Another question here from Ross says, what has been your approach to filling the HMOs? Is it just through an estate agent or council? So I wonder if you could go into a little bit about how it started being just private, and now it is a little bit different with the relationship.
Yeah, so originally we just used a local letting agent, and again, going back to qualifying demand of that particular area, we knew that area had warehouses, hospitals, these types of establishments that would offer a private, a professional tenant type profile. And at the beginning, we just kind of went with random people, single people, and just tried to fill them that way. After about 12 to 18 months, probably 18 months, what we started to do was try to make our portfolio and our operations and all that sort of stuff just as efficient as possible. And so what we started to do was look at other ways of doing things. So actually, a couple of our properties now, we work with the local hospital to essentially take on nurses, and actually they're sort of more friendly together, they're more of a unit together, and actually we find that works a lot better, and also provides us with a quite a regular flow of tenants that require these types of rooms. But yeah, I think with small HMOs, I think sort of void periods and that kind of process of getting tenants in and making sure they're happy, and that whole flow is really important, because once you have a room empty, even if it's for 2 weeks, it's going to impact your numbers massively, especially in today's market when everything seems to be that much more expensive.
That's great. Another question here says, what's been your approach to raising the finance for your properties? Obviously the first thought, I know there's a whole other presentation on that.
Who's that from?
That's from Barry, and I know that obviously the plain answer to that is just talking to people, of which AK's done most of the money raising for our business. He's raised a lot of money into Property Couple.
So essentially with that, so just remind me of the exact question.
So what has been your approach? I said talking to people to raising finance for your properties.
So Leah's right, but to just give you a bit more context to that, I'll just tell you exactly how I did it. So essentially,
if you go back to the middle, I'll put it on you. Thank you. Yeah.
No worries. Okay, so essentially, the beginning is always the hardest part, because you don't really have anything to show somebody. So when you're trying to tell people, I'm building this property business, and they sort of say, well, how big's the business, how many properties you've got, and you say nothing, it's quite difficult, right? So they are essentially buying into you as a person. But if you can show them that you know what you're doing, then that can help massively when it comes to confidence. And this is obviously going to come with either educating yourself, learning about it in some way, and things like that. But essentially, how we did it was I just connected with as many people as I could, having genuine conversations, and I mean genuine, catching up with people. If I felt that it made sense in that conversation to bring up the topic of, I'm building a property business, then I would do that. And when I did that, some people would say, tell me more about that. And then you would sort of get into the details of that. And then over time, I created a document that was able to kind of, an investor document that was able to obviously show people what we could do. A property that if we bought it, if we did X to it, like I was showing you on those plans, what it would generate for an investor, X, Y, Z, and you can add more details to it. I could sort of like go into that in a lot of detail, but I'm not going to. But I hope that, just for time, I hope that that's kind of helped give a little bit more context to that, Barry.
That's great. And I'm sure you could do a whole other live stream, maybe next month or the month after when we get back from Greece, about just money raising in general, because obviously that is one of the main questions that you get. How did you raise money? How did you raise finance into the business? There's potentially another live stream there.
And talking about raising money, remember guys, if you haven't already, any little donation will help.
Dr. Ray.
The link is pinned in the comments box.
Last question of the night, and then we'll call it a day. Lynn says, do you have a builder that always goes with you now to view properties to give estimates on renovations needed so you can determine if it will be profitable enough for you?
Yeah.
So I think what Lynn means as well is at the beginning of the journey it's quite hard, isn't it, to get a builder to go with you to every property viewing because there's nothing in it for them really. Whereas now that we've done a few, we can take a builder with us.
Look, I'm not going to lie, it's always going to be harder at the beginning because you don't know what you don't know. And but it's about building relationships. So now we have a builder that I know I can call up and say, listen, I've got a property viewing here or whatever, can you come down and have a look? But I think once you understand your strategy, you understand your area, and you understand the type of property, once you've kind of done one, then it can be a cookie cutter approach if you want it to be. and so you kind of then know. So once we'd done our first one, I kind of knew how much the refurb was going to be. I kind of knew what I needed to purchase it for. I kind of knew what it was going to rent for. Kind of knew what it was going to refinance at. So, you know, you kind of, once you've done the first one, you'll start to understand that anyway.
Fantastic.
I
think we'll call it a day there.
Call it a day there. So
got some people just arriving. Bit late, guys. Bit late.
You just missed it. But it's fine. You can catch it.
You can catch up on catch up.
Cool.
Well, thank you guys so much. I'll come over to this camera and wave at you guys, although I don't really know how I'm going to end it.
Because come over to this side and then you'll have to end it.
So guys, thank you so much for coming on to the live. I'm really proud of AK for doing his little bit camera, because, you know, only a few years ago he wouldn't have been able to do that at all, like just talk to camera and do his presentation. So huge thanks to Dr. Rowe for helping him as well with the mentoring, presenting style.
Yeah, I did one of his courses, a communicating with impact course. Still a long way to go, but like I said, I wouldn't be able to stand here in front of you guys and offer you some value if it wasn't for Dr. Rowe, which is the reason we're doing this. So, thank you everyone who watched this. Hope you took something from it, and
we'll see you on Sunday for our usual video upload. Take care, everybody, and see you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Now I need to end it. Keep waving. Keep waving. Oh my gosh. Bye, everyone.